was destroyed, beaten down. My demons came to drag me down. Fire burned all around. My own screams, the only sound. Hellfire burned my soul away. The devil laughed, my skin was flayed. He knew not what I was worth. Fires of hell brought my rebirth. So I explode in a fit of light. Towards the sun I burst into flight. Now watch me fly on wings of fire. Watch my flames lift me higher. Ashes to ashes to my surprise. I am the phoenix, watch me rise. Purge by fire, cleanse the sin. Knock me down, I'll fly again. Yeah, now there's no disguising. See me soar, I am the phoenix rising. And now I can't even see what I used to be. Flying free from the past. Just I'm free at last. Now watch me fly, wings of fire. Watch my flames lift me higher. Ashes to ashes, my surprise. I am the phoenix, watch me rise. Yeah, watch me fly, wings of fire. Watch the flames lift me higher. Ashes to ashes, my surprise. I am the phoenix, watch me rise. I am the phoenix, watch me rise. Alrighty.
Jack Blaise, everyone.
Thank you. Hello.
Hey, man. Hey, you know that song? Let's talk about that right now, because after taking a look at some of the things that have happened to you recently, and I checked out some of the interviews you've done, and even in our conversations, it's quite an appropriate song. Rise Like a Phoenix.
Yeah, it's so just to kind of give you my story. You know, I joined the Army in '93. After 3 years in the Army, did my hitch, got out, really missed it, and really thought the Army was boring, so I joined the Marine Corps and got to go back to boot camp and learn how to march around in circles the same way again. And got out of the Marine Corps, though. I cut my time short in the Marine Corps, came home, and then after 9/11, spent some time in the reserves. I never deployed anywhere. My military career was quite uneventful, to say the least. After that, in 2004, I got hired on with the Houston Fire Department and was a paramedic with the Houston Fire Department and firefighter for 10 years. And everything was going great. I was on the fire department hockey team. I was playing in amateur hockey leagues, which was really kind of wild for me. But getting ready to play a hockey game one night, and I'm down on the ice stretching, and when I stand up, I don't know, I suddenly had the worst headache of my life. And I really had no idea what was going on. I thought somebody had hit me in the back of the head with an axe, or I was having a stroke or something. And that was October 23rd, 2013. And from then until 2020, I had a 10 out of 10 migraine headache. I'm very sensitive to light. I still have to wear dark glasses and the hat every day, all day, whenever I go out of any place I control the light source. And so for 7 years, I was laid up, and the only time I could get out of bed was if I took a fistful of pain pills, and went and had all the tests done, and they finally went, here's some Vicodin, have a nice life, basically. And my girlfriend at the time got a job in Colorado, so we moved up to Denver, and I ended up finding a dentist, of all people, who realized that I actually had a severe TMJ disorder that had my jaw completely locked up, that was causing these horrible headaches. And so she got me into a treatment with modified Invisalign and all kinds of crazy stuff. And that was, like I said, about 2019 actually was when that happened. And about a year later, my head started feeling better. And so I started, getting up and moving around and having a life again. And it has really changed everything, and that's what that song is about. That song is, I literally was beaten down, had no desire to do anything, every dark thought you can think of, suicidal, depressed, homicidal, I mean everything, angry at the world. I went through it all until I came back, and that's what that song was about, was, you can just shake all that shit off, hopefully one day.
This is like a 25-year period, with the last 7 or so years where you are in debilitating pain and you're just trying to find relief. And no kidding about rising from it all and becoming really where you need to be, where you want to be in life, which is somewhat pain-free, to be able to take this music and do something with it. And it sounds like, in reading your bio, let me see here. Let me just read this bio, all right? Because it kind of touches on so many of the things that you just mentioned. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that, Jack, this is what's out there for you. You're a multi-service veteran, having served in the Army and the Marine Corps. A few years later, you joined the Houston Fire Department, worked as a paramedic fireman for more than 10 years, till you developed that debilitating ailment, chronic headaches, which left you bedridden. I don't know that you had mentioned that. And it was relieved through playing guitar, lying on your back, as I remember it in an interview, that you finally started to discover that, this is helping. It's helping you heal. It may not be the complete answer in addressing the discomfort, but that had something to do with it.
Oh, absolutely. I'll be the first to tell you that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for music and guitar. I had been in, music earlier in my life, in high school, and wanted to be the next Axl Rose, and, all those things that we wanted to do as teenagers. But, I was raised very much in a family that music isn't a job. It's something you do for fun. Music is something you don't do outside of the house, kind of thing. It's fine as a hobby, but you really need a real job if you're going to, make a living in society. And so when I joined the Army, I took my guitar with me, but I got to say that was really, I kind of set it aside and didn't have much passion for it. And I had considered myself a singer. I was in the choir and like I said, music theater and stuff like that in high school. And so I considered myself a singer more, and just played enough to make noise kind of behind myself. And when I realized I wasn't going to actually pursue music, I pretty much set my guitar down. I didn't own a guitar for many years. And then one of the first thing I bought when I realized that I was, not going to be a fireman anymore and didn't have anything else to do, they gave me a little payout, and I went and I bought myself a guitar and an amp, and just to kind of have something to do while I was laying there. And after a while I started, and it actually sat there for probably 6 months before I even picked it up and started playing again. But started playing again, and what I realized was that when I would sing and the guitar vibrating on my chest. I mean, it just suddenly I was transcended out of this god awful place I was in, and I could just, the vibrations just made everything better. And it sounds kind of really strange to say, but that's exactly what it was. It was just the vibrations would vibrate my body and my head to where it felt better. And so that's kind of where I was. And then in 2020, to kind of move into songwriting out of that, because for a while I had to start basically over learning the guitar. I knew my chords, although it was kind of funny. I had like a little riff that I learned at 16 that I can still just pop out. I have no idea what I'm playing, but it just boop, there it goes. But so I learned my chords over and all the basics and coming back up and just playing covers and things. And I thought, I had written poetry and stuff as a kid, but I'd never thought I could like write songs, especially not songs like about me, personal kind of things. And one day I'm scrolling on Facebook, because that's kind of what else I did besides playing guitar. There wasn't a whole lot else to do. And there was it was either Facebook or an email, and it said, "Hey, are you a veteran? Do you like music? Would you like to meet Vince Gill?" And I was like, yes, and hell yes,
Yeah.
And it was a group called Soldier Songs and Voices that was putting on a songwriting therapy session for veterans. And it was right at the beginning of COVID, so we ended up doing it online. But it was just amazing, and I wouldn't have been able to do it if it hadn't been online. But it was just amazingly awesome to me to sit and listen to other people's stories and learn how to actually write a song, and learn that yes, there is a process. Sure, sometimes things just lightning strikes and all of a sudden you're there, and you're the antenna, and the universe is communicating through you, and that's it. But there are also times when you sit down with a pen and paper and say, okay, I'm not getting up until I've written something, and that there's, that it's actually a craft and a skill that you can learn, and it's not just you either have it or you don't,
Okay, so listen, there is so much here to kind of talk through with you, because from your experiences with rediscovering guitar, to applying some of the skill that you may have had with creative writing poetry, to songwriting. I want to go back to maybe your time before you enlisted, and
okay,
there were a couple of things that I remember coming into about your family and service, military generations before you, that it sounded like that might have had an influence in why maybe you became, you wanted to become a member of the military to carry on that tradition. Am I close? Is that?
Yeah. Actually,
because I know we talked about this, about your grandfather and your father. I think it's an interesting story for sharing.
Yeah, my grandfather, and the person I take my name from, he enlisted. The day he turned 17, he had convinced his mother to go down and sign the paperwork for him in 1944 to join the Navy. Before the war's over, he didn't want to miss it, and so I think his birthday was in February. But anyway, so he went to boot camp, became assigned to the USS Marcus Daly as a gunner, which Marcus Daly was actually a merchant ship, and so at that time they would assign naval personnel to the merchant marines to protect them from aircraft mostly. But and so he was out there his first time out, and they sailed right into the Battle of the Philippines, and so he the gun tub where he was in was hit actually by a kamikaze, and 200 soldiers were blown overboard and killed. His entire gun crew but him was killed, and they actually threw him on the pile of bodies because he had a sucking chest wound, and they assumed he wouldn't survive. And so he wasn't even evac'd until the next day when the chaplain came around to give him his last rites. Legend is that he, spit in the chaplain's eye. That's what got them to pay attention to the fact that he was still alive. That's probably not true, but that's the legend.
Was this a story that you heard directly from him, or is this passed down to generation for sharing?
He would tell me stories about the Navy, but he would never tell me anything specific, He would tell me about hanging out with his buddies, and things like that, but not never anything about the action. Except for one time when he was really drunk and angry. He was in a lot of pain and talked about how he was still carrying, pieces of Zero everywhere he went. But anyway, so at 17 years old, he got the crap blown out of him and was left for dead. And but so that is his legacy. And then my father was the number called in the draft in 71, I believe. And instead of waiting to be drafted and go in and report, he immediately went down to the recruiter's office and signed up to have some control over what he did. And he did 8 years in the Army, and then only got out because my brother was born with a heart condition, and so he got a hardship to get out of the Army to take care of him. Sir?
We're talking about Vietnam.
Yes.
That time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he ended up not going to Vietnam, so he did not deploy either. Because apparently at that time, after he left the recruiter's office, he went and got married. And apparently at that time, they were only sending you to Vietnam if you volunteered, if you were already married. So, so there is a military legacy in my, I was an Army brat until I was 6 or 7, something like that. And I very much grew up, reading all the books about Vietnam and all that stuff I could. When I was very little, I thought that was absolutely what I was going to do. And then for a while in high school, actually when I discovered music, I was kind of like, no, this is the way I want to go. And then, that time after high school when I was just kind of, I didn't have any direction, and that was what put me in the Army. And
Did the stories of your dad and your grandfather inspire you to do that? I mean, obviously there were choices, and this is the choice that you made to enlist.
They did actually. Yeah. They did actually. I think my grandfather actually was more against it, but my dad was all for it. He thought it was a great way for me to get out and find some direction and grow up. And that that probably wasn't very far from the truth. I was I knew everything I needed to know. I was out of high school. You can't tell me anything.
Now you said in your bio that you applied for the U.S. Army and then went on to the Marines as well too, not deployed. And it was a fairly uneventful time. We weren't at war at that time. What was your takeaway from your service? Was there something that you kept with you, saying, you know what, I learned some things, now I'm moving on?
I have to say, I actually became pretty disillusioned with the military through the process. Being raised the way I was, in a military family, Texas, heritage, all that. I had a gun in my hand before, about the time I could walk, that kind of stuff. Growing up, I thought that if a person had a position of authority, they must have a bit of common sense, and the military immediately teaches you that that's not true. That the people in charge of you may or may not have any idea, how to even breathe by themselves. So I was very disillusioned with the whole idea of, just the glory of it all and all that stuff that you grow up with, God, honor, courage, and all that stuff. And while I very much am not anti-military or again. I definitely, love everybody who's served and all that good stuff. But I just think the military it is not necessarily an organization that everybody should be a part of. So.
Understandable. Well, I think it's time for a break here, and then when we jump back into it, we can start talking a little bit more about music. But is there? I mean, this obviously left you some things to think about. Songwriting. Was there anything that you've written that might have addressed anything about your career? Or even...
Funny you might ask. If you mind, I'll go ahead and play you one. So,
all right, what's it called?
This is called "I Bow My Head," and this is honestly, like I said, I came out of the military kind of jaded, and then right after I was towards the end of my time in the fire department, we had a whole lot of drama, and the city was pulling our pension and just all kinds of stuff, and so this isn't just about the military. This is kind of about all the people who serve and the people who claim to support them. And then I heard a song on the radio, something about "I can't wait to be buried in Arlington," and it absolutely just pissed me off. And I say sometimes you're the antenna, and this came out in about 5 minutes. And then just last year I went back and wrote the bridge to it. But yeah, so this is "About My Head."
All right.
Raised up under the stars and stripes, I got down on my knees each night. I heard the good news, said the pledge each day. When 19 came, I went away. Became a cog in the green machine. Man, you wouldn't believe the things I've seen. When that flag is raised and the anthem plays and the jets, they go thundering overhead. Keep your heads held high so you don't wonder why. I bow my head so you don't see me cry. Now I'm haunted by some things I've done in the name of the Father and the Son. A yellow ribbon, a hero's parade, that's all fool's gold at the end of the day. It's shiny enough and makes you believe, the coldest stone against a widow's grief. So when that flag is raised and the anthem plays and the jets, they go thundering overhead, keep your heads held high so you don't wonder why. Bow my head so you don't see me cry. Yeah, keep paying your lip service, don't look beneath the surface, 'cause that's where you might find how it feels coming home to a sack full of pills to try and numb your mind. Now here I sit in the land of the free, with my neighbors that want to take from me. Gave so much and still want more. What the hell was it all for? So when that flag is raised and the anthem plays and the jets, they go thundering overhead, keep your heads held high so you don't wonder why. I bow my head so you don't see me cry. Yeah, I bow my head so you can't see me cry.
Jack Blaise. So let's talk about this from a songwriter's perspective. Man, those are pretty intense words here. You can talk about it came out of the sky. 5 minutes later, you had it written.
Yeah.
Maybe, can you recall maybe the emotion, some of the things you were thinking of before you started to write this stuff down? Or for those songwriters out there, it's like, how do you do that? Maybe kind of do some clarity.
If I could figure out how to recreate that, I would definitely would. I would bottle it and sell it. But yeah, it was, like I said, I've always in my life, I've kind of, when I really feel strong emotions, I'll pull out the pen and paper and I'll start writing. And that, like I said, that song just at that moment just made me so angry and so disrespected feeling, that and not just me, just everybody, that here we are telling our children that, the best thing you can do ever is to go die in some foreign country for somebody else's idea of what needs to happen in the world. And that just, that was not, to me, that just seems so jingoistic and exploitive. And it just made me so incredibly angry. And so as I picked up the pen and started, I was like, first off, who are you talking to? This is a kid that bought into all of this. This is a kid that I was raised in a military family. I was raised in the church. I was raised, you believe in God and country and duty, and these are the things that you do. And I was raised with the idea that, basically there is no higher thing in the world that you can do than to go and be killed in the military. And I resent that now, but I see that still being the dominant message a lot in our society, and especially among the people who end up in the military, and that just, I know a lot of people who very much 100% very much believe that is the way to live and that's the way society should function, and that's great. I have, but that's not the way I perceive the world. And so it struck such a chord with me at that time that I just had to write. And as I was writing, I wanted it to not be something that could just be, dismissed as, oh, well, that's just some disgruntled kid, that's some stupid hippie commie, he doesn't know anything, and so that's kind of, I started with, well, this is my story, this is where I came from, so I know what I'm talking about. How about you, Mr. Let's Go Be Buried in Arlington, and it just, so that's where that came from. And like I said, and then the last verse, it was like, I was working in the fire department. We're the most, or not the most, but we are the we are the stepchildren of the fire department world. It seems like we're one of the lowest paid down in Houston, least appreciated, and we had walked for the mayor to get him elected. And as soon as he got elected, he went and slashed our pension and slashed benefits and did all these things. So just complete, stab in the back by politicians. And that's, and that's, my jadedness of the military just extends into all government at this point, because they're all, they're all in their self-interested ways. And I'm not going to get into politics and stuff, but they're just, so.
I mean, it's an acknowledgement here. You probably needed to experience that before you could even articulate this, for sure.
Right.
Let me ask you this then. With it is obviously deeply emotional, deeply disturbing. How do you sort through that in order to put these thoughts into paper? Because it's kind of like, I don't know about you, but there are times where it's like, I want to write about this and write about this, and soon it's like it becomes a 12-minute song, but this is not the message that you want. Can you talk to that about how is it that you sort through the emotions of it all, just kind of identifying those things that you want included in your song?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent, and one thing that was taught to me was in word economy. So the fewest words possible that you can use. So if you can, one of my favorite songs is a Merle Haggard song, and I'm drawing a blank on it, but it's a minute long, and it's just, he writes a letter to his ex-wife and says, hey, your daughter's been calling you haven't answered, so I bought her a Christmas present, so that's fine, she'll never know that you didn't care. And it's like, there's no chorus and repeat and all this stuff, and it's just, but it's such a powerful song. Or the famous um, write the saddest song or the saddest story with the least amount of words. And it says, baby shoes, never worn. And that's, and I believe it was Hemingway that it was supposedly that was this, writer's round kind of thing that he came up with that. And it's like, the more you can say with the less words, that's really what I'm going for, because, I know what my experience is. And while I'm very much telling my experience, I want the listener to be able to plug in their experience, So if they can take away the emotion that I'm putting into it and not necessarily the details, then that's how I've communicated with them, because, my details and their details are going to be different, but the emotion is the same. And that's where the communication happens, is in the emotion. That's why everybody, everybody can relate to, I'm a small town girl, on a train to nowhere, and even though none of us have ever been, none of us here, well, I guess Norma has, none of us have ever been a girl, and may have never even been on a train, but we know that feeling, and that's what I shoot for. And so if you don't need to say it, don't say it. If you can say, I went to the store, instead of, I went and ran errands today, and along the way I saw Bubba Joe, and then I saw my friend, and then I went to this store and that store was closed, I went to another store, when the whole takeaway is just, hey, I went to the store, picked up the things we need, now we're home. That's, so yeah, word economy is where I'm going with that. Good. Obviously I don't speak in word economy.
Well, hey, tonight you're the storyteller, so that's cool. That's totally fine. Thanks for sharing your insight on that. I want to talk about the your career with the Houston Fire Department, because apparently, it's enough to make this song, but it's also, you're a paramedic firefighter, and that was a career that lasted over 10 years, right? Is that what
Yes.
I got from your bio?
Yeah.
Maybe you're like the third guest I've had on Song So True who's indicated that, I was a firefighter. I'm just curious what drew you to that profession.
There's a lot of things. What's up, Eddie? There was a lot of things, actually. The biggest one at the time was that I wanted a stable job, to be completely honest. You're not supposed to admit that. Every fireman, it's always like, my childhood kid, my dream to be a fireman from the time I was knee-high. But I had been in the bar business between the Marine Corps. After the Marine Corps, I was kind of lost. And I'd been bartending and had my daughter that I had, given up the military to come home and raise. And then, her mom and I split up anyway, and I was kind of lost. And so from bartending, I needed to find something that had insurance and stable pay and all that. And I actually went to the police department first, because I thought I can do that. And oh God, I'm so glad I didn't. But I got all the way through the progress, but I had bad credit, and they wouldn't hire me without like all this extra stuff. And they were like, well, the fire department's hiring. And so I went down to the fire department, and sure enough, it just happened to be one of the right times I hit one of the hiring sprees that they have, because Houston is ran so badly. They only hire like every 10 years, and then they hire a bunch of people, and then they're good for another 20 years till that group retires, and then they have to hire a whole bunch of other people. But anyway, so I just kind of lucked into it, honestly. But I really did, I did enjoy helping people. I wanted to help people. I wanted to help my community. I wanted to better my community. And that's, that was the biggest thing. I would love to say the camaraderie and all that, but quite frankly, I've always been such an odd duck that I kind of miss out on that a lot of times. I'm always the odd man out in small groups, it feels like. I don't know, maybe that's my own thing. But, but yeah, that was really the main thing, was the stability and then being able to help people and give back to my community, because I really wanted to. And quite frankly, I felt I had a whole lot of guilt over leaving the Marine Corps, and I really felt like a failure, and like I had let that mission down, that I was going to go and serve my country and serve my community and be a Marine and do all the things that entailed, and then when I didn't, it kind of turned on my head, and then so when I had the opportunity to join the fire department, I kind of felt like that was somewhat of a redemption for that, because I didn't know in '98 that we were going to be at war in 2 years, and that's still something that I kind of struggle with myself, is the fact that my military career was very uneventful. I didn't do doodly squat, and now I hang out with guys all the time who are multiple tours, all that good stuff, blown to bits, and it's been a reckoning for me to kind of realize that that stuff, it's not everybody agrees, but that stuff is
that's your
not all that important,
right?
Yeah,
it's 10 years though. You were is it 10 plus?
10 plus. Well, actually, so I got hired January 4th of 2004. We hit the streets the first time, I think, in March of 2004. So yeah, from March of 2004 until October of 2013, I was on the streets as a medic, and then the last few months there, I was working downtown, high on painkillers. So.
Was it
anyway,
as a result of the stress of the job, or
they originally they thought that it was a spinal fluid leak, and that was the path they went down. I am convinced that a whole lot of it was the stress of the job. By the time I was done, by the time I retired, I was so burnt out, and I was such a bad medic. I had no business being on the street, and then, no business at all. Anyway, sorry.
No, that's appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about music. Let's talk about at what point in time you were able to, first of all, recognize that music was of your interest. It was something that you wanted to be in your life. Do you recall when you had that initial experience of music? Wow, I like this. I want this to be part of my life.
I don't remember having that. I have pictures of me as a infant with headphones on. As far as I know, music has always been a thing, and it has always been my thing. When I was growing up, most of my time was spent in my room, with my headphones on, the record player going, and my mom and dad had all these great old records, which was wonderful.
What were some of them? What are some that you recall?
Old country Grand Ole Opry compilations with Kitty Wells and Minnie Pearl, Hank Williams Sr., Elvis, Merle Haggard, the Oakridge Boys, Statler Brothers, the Bob Wells and Texas Playboys, Sleep at the Wheel, Western Swing stuff, and it was, yeah.
Did you ever sneak in and put one of their records on without them there, or is this something that you can't touch these? What was that?
It was interesting. They had, my parents are very religious, and so they had the approved records that I thought were the only records that we had. But then I found out later that they had the old records that they didn't listen to anymore, that were off in their own room, and there they had the Black Sabbath, and I was like, what?
He's a good girl.
I see how it is. Yeah.
Oh, what was it? What was it like to discover that? Were you able to finally break in? Do the thing that most us curious.
Well, I was much older by then, honestly, and I was buying my own music at that point, and honestly, it kind of made me mad at my dad, because it was one of those everybody's dad is a hypocrite at one point. I've been a hypocrite when I'm, raising my kids, but it's, it was, I never listened to that devil music, I never had long hair. And then I find out that when he got married, his dad made him cut his hair before he would sign the papers for him to get married because he had long hair. And that he had actually been in a rock band in high school. And, just all this. And I was like, what the hell, Dad?
Well, he was a musician? Your dad?
Yeah.
Was a musician?
Apparently, I just found that out like last year.
Oh, no.
Up here.
Oh,
yeah, I had no idea. No idea.
Wow.
But,
did you ever have the opportunity to sit down and play? Or?
No. I mean, I've played for him and stuff like that.
You never really, hey, let's play some Led Zeppelin. That was
no. I never knew he had any musical inclination at all. And in fact, I always thought he was very anti-me music. Anti-me doing music, anti-me playing music. I mean, when I was a kid, he would always be the first one to tell me, don't sing around here. Don't sing at the table. Don't sing when we're, there's other people around. And just, it was always seemed very against me having any musical interest. So I was really kind of floored to find out that he had actually had at least musical interest before.
Did that change?
But,
I mean, it sounded like you may have had an opportunity to play for him. And what was that experience like?
Well, I actually, when I was down here a couple of years ago, he was dying of sepsis. He recovered. He's still alive. But he was septic, and we didn't really know what was wrong. We just knew he was not breathing well and all these things. And as I was sitting there, I noticed that, as he's struggling to take his last breaths, he just will not take his eyes off my mother. And they're, and they've been married since 1971 when they got married, and it was just such this not even bittersweet. I don't even know what the word is, because it was so tragic on one hand that it's like, here he is going, and I really thought, he really thought, we all really thought he was going, but at the same time, like the depth of his connection to her was just so inspirational. I wrote a song about it, and then I got to play that song for them at their 51st wedding anniversary. So that was really special.
What a moment!
Yeah.
Bring that song with you tonight.
I can do that one, I think. Yeah, that's actually a lovely song. I do have to go get a capo though, and I don't.
Go get the capo. I'll go ahead and fill while you go ahead and do that. So, just a note to everyone who's participating in tonight's podcast. I do have the chat box open. If you have questions, I'll throw that in there, and I'm going to share them with Jack. Jack has also graciously offered to stick around to answer any questions about some of the things that he does for songwriting. Or anything that we're covering tonight in his storytelling. I think that, for those of you who are currently involved with the Becoming a Songwriter workshop, now's a good time to maybe take some of the questions that you might have had if you wanted to pose, or maybe you're an aspiring songwriter, or even a guitarist for that matter. Take a moment to go ahead and throw some of the questions into the chat feature. And we'll go ahead and see if Jack can answer those. So yeah, hey Jack, I don't know if you can hear me. You're plugging in here. Let me just ask you guitar-related question. You're using a capo on this. What inspires you to use what? Because there are a couple of different techniques that are used, from either changing the pitch to something higher that you can sing, or maybe because it's easier to play open chords by capoing. Maybe you can kind of give us some insight as to, do you use a capo often, or do you like to play with more challenging chords? Maybe you can give us some insight on it.
Yeah, so for me, I am very much first position cowboy chords kind of player. So I like to be able to just carry that up and down the neck with the capo. So what I mean by that is, like, this song I wrote in D, because D fits my voice pretty well. It's just I just like playing in D a lot. But after I wrote it, it didn't feel emotional enough to me in that key, and so I just raised it up and kind of up and down the fretboard, and keeping it in D until I found where it fit my voice. And I've experimented with, like, just playing it, because I actually play it in G now once it's capoed. And so I've experimented with playing it in G open, first position, but it just doesn't sound right. It really needs those bright strings, so the sonic character of the chords, when it's capoed up, that's really what makes it
All right. So what's the name of the song?
This is called what is this called? Thoughts of You. When no one knows the future, me, I wouldn't want to. No matter what the future brings, one thing I know is true. My last thought in this world will be of you. Whether on a field of battle or in a chair fighting for breath, we all stare alone to the face of death. And no matter how it comes, my time is through. My last thought in this world will be of you. Whether on my share, you're my first thought in the morning, my last as I fall asleep. Yeah, I'm thinking about you, and I pray my soul to keep. And no matter what happens, my time is through. My last thought in this world will be of you. Well, I've got my share of memories, many more to make. I'm sure I'll go before you because of my mistakes. When we get to the pearly gates, they're gonna have to drag me through, because my last thought in this world will be of you. Well, you're my first thought in the morning, my last as I fall asleep. Yeah, I'm thinking about you, and I pray my soul to keep. And no matter what happens, my time is through. My last thought in this world will be of you. After I've forgotten my own name, the answer will be the same. My last thought in this world will be of you.
that applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you played your parents. Is this the first time that they actually heard you perform? And maybe you can talk about it.
Um, no, they had heard me perform. Well, I had sung. I did sing at my brother's wedding, years ago. So they had seen me sing, but they'd never seen me like play and sing really. So, but yeah, and they were blown away. They, you know, they snuggled up in that old couple way and looked at each other and had tears, and it was very special. That was one of the highlights of my life, I have to say. Absolutely, one of the highlights of my life.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Be able to put words and music in a song and that type of reaction. Well, way to go! Thank you so much for sharing that. Let me just take you back now. I want you to do a comparison, side by side comparison. The experience of writing that song versus writing, the song that you initially. Both are emotional. Maybe your mind was clouded with images of things that you wanted to communicate. Were they similar in the way that you approach songwriting for both of those songs?
Actually, no, not at all. The last song, "Thoughts of You," I actually pulled. I had to pull kind of out of myself and put myself into my father's shoes to write that one. Because, I mean, quite frankly, I've never experienced that kind of love. I can imagine what that would feel like and how that is, but, a 50-year relationship where they have just been connected at the hip the whole time, that's just something that very, very few people can even understand. So I had no way of getting there with my experiences, so I really had to kind of pull myself out of myself and go into a different headspace to come to that, to well, how would my dad feel about this? How would he think? What kind of things would he say to her? And that's what my favorite line in that whole song is when I get to the pearly gates, they're gonna have to drag me through. Because he would just not want to leave her, and that's really kind of understated unless you really know him, because as an extremely religious man, to resist going to heaven, that's like that is just a really, really powerful thing, and so I wouldn't have been able to get there from my own experiences and my own thoughts, so I really had to kind of method act that one almost,
Oh, and putting yourself in a third person or second person, or it's someone other than yourself,
right?
Get that perspective.
But then I also one thing about songwriting though about that is that then I also very much, the power of that song comes from, it's not, while it is a story about them, it's told from the first person, and so that greatly increases the connection, I think.
Your observation. This is your observation of seeing around you. It's
right.
About you. It's about you seeing. And that's one of the things that we're kind of covering in our songwriter workshop underway over the Guitars for that perspective. Yeah. Hey, let's talk about some of the influences to your style of songwriting. Maybe a couple of songs that stand out to you that, like, what, I like the sound of that song. I like to incorporate some of the elements of that song in mine. Anything come to mind?
Well, I have to say, first off, Dwight Yoakam is my biggest first comparison in my head. If I could ever be compared in the same statement as Dwight Yoakam, I would be happy as can be, because he's such a versatile artist. He's not just a country singer. He's he had his own style that he brought to country. The whole place in California, Bakersfield, the whole Bakersfield sound, thing that he carried forward. And his, again, word economy and simplicity with lyrics, and yet very highly successful in the business of it. So that's I think he's kind of the pinnacle of success, of professional achievement that I would aspire to. But his songwriting is awesome. But then I also, I'm a big fan of, Townes Van Zandt, like everybody else, with a cowboy hat and a guitar. Hank Williams Sr., obviously, John Conley, But then on the other side, I idolized Prince. Prince was an amazing musician. He could go in just a bajillion directions, and just kill it, and performer, and just, that kind of level of creativity I would love to be able to achieve also, but yeah, those are Merle Haggard. I would be very remiss if I didn't say Merle Haggard. So he's
now,
definitely.
when it comes to songwriting itself, do you prefer doing stuff on your own, or do you enjoy collaborating with them?
I have to say, I have found that I have a really hard time collaborating. It's not that I don't want to. I don't know. I haven't really successfully collaborated yet.
When you're writing solo, is there something that stands out above, all else when it comes to writing on your own compared to collaborating?
No, I just think that when I get into that headspace, it's kind of like I kind of have to hit the switch and then just kind of hold on and see what happens. And a lot of times, I've had that. I have to say, I did have that work once with I co-wrote with George Inslee one time, and him and I wrote a great song, and that was awesome. But every other time I've tried to collaborate, it just didn't go anywhere, and it was just, I felt like I was blocked trying to let that flow happen. And I hate to say that because it sounds so like self-indulgent and not because the great thing about music is collaboration, honestly. And so I really wish I could collaborate better, and I want to practice collaborating in the future, but so far I have not been successful at it. But for when I get into my own writing, like I said, it's very much, I just need to get myself into a headspace where I can just go with it, and sometimes if I'm really having trouble getting in that headspace, I'll just start doodling, just throwing rhymes out there that make no sense, or words that just don't have anything to do with anything. And then eventually, sometimes things will fall out, and sometimes they don't, but and then if any little thing falls out, like from your interview with Derek Thompson, I text myself all the time, like, oh yeah, this idea, click here, and then
technology, especially when you're like, you have no pad,
right,
like, the only thing I got, I'll go ahead and write.
Well, I have to say, I actually these days find myself writing mostly on my laptop. I'm not really sure why. It's just I find it more comfortable lately.
If you're someone who's fast at it, yeah, it's like stream that information right down to the computer itself, as opposed to writing things longhand, which I've gotten into lately as I'm going through the becoming a songwriter workshop myself. It's like, oh, this is taking a long time to write everything out, but trade-off is I actually feel what I'm writing. It's kind of like I can actually, in my mind, get this sensation of like, this is the feeling that I want, versus, all right, I'm a stream of consciousness, I'm just type it away. So whatever works.
Actually, I was going to say that is a point though, is that when I find myself writing by hand, I often am 3 lines ahead of what I'm writing, and by the time I get there, I've forgotten what those 3 lines are because I can't write fast enough to keep up with myself. And so the computer, I'm generally better at keeping up with myself. So
Sure. Have you ever come into writer's block, and how did you end up getting around that? If you
um, I have writer's block quite often, actually, and the best way around it, I think, is to not feel like you have to write a song. Is to just say, I'm just gonna, look around me and come up with an image or, something that catches my eye that I can write 1 line about, maybe 2, if I'm really getting creative, and then just leave it at that, and then maybe take a break and come back and look for something else to get creative with. And so you're not necessarily, so there's no pressure to write a whole song, right? It's not even a pressure to come up with a lyric or a melody or anything. It's just, this is a good creative idea, whether it would be a good movie or just and something that you find interesting, I can see the air current blowing the paper towel a certain way, that's interesting. And so you just write down wind blowing the paper towel or something like that. And then you walk away from it and then come back later and, kind of do the same thing again.
some time to think about it, scratch the ideas down initially, then come back to it later, and then when you're in the right mindset and actually, this is what I meant, and I meant to add this and this and this and this, without feeling like you're under pressure.
Right, and also, and oftentimes when you come back to it, you'll see things like the next day you'll come in and go, paper towel blowing. What was that? And so you, if nothing else, see it in a completely different way sometimes. So you can come to the same idea, your own idea, from different perspectives sometimes. Of course, having memory issues, it helps to change perspectives.
You're reading my mind. What are you talking about? That would be me. Hey, Dan Spiegelberg, one of our guests this evening, who's also, I know he's an instructor, and I also know he's participating in our songwriter workshop. Do you usually come up with the lyrics first? Then what usually comes next?
I am almost always a lyrics first person. Yes. And then I usually go lyrics, and then I try to, with the lyrics, then I try to break it into, like stanzas that can be more musical. So then I can kind of figure out the syllables going together, and then the timing of how the syllables are going to fall, and then the melody can come out of that, hopefully. But once I get the timing of when the melody of the timing of the syllables, then I'll start trying to do it to chords, and just trying to hear the changes. And even if it's just playing over one chord for a while until I feel like I want to do something different lyrically, and then try to find that change and put those two ideas together. So that's generally the way I do it when I'm having to think about it. The most fun though is when that lightning strikes and you just got that antenna up and it just flows right through you.
Yeah, it's like
I hope. I don't think anybody can ever experience that and then go, I want to do anything else besides write songs. I mean, that's just.
That is so. It's such a cool feeling to have. I think it's happened to me a couple of times. I got a couple dozen songs written, but I have to tell you, man, it was not one of those lightning strikes moments. It's just a couple times where it has. It's like, okay, next. It comes. But
when they say if you just wait for inspiration, you're going to be waiting a long time. You have to find your inspiration. And that's why, like I said, everyday items. That's something Butch Hancock actually told me that and taught me that, and that was something that I apply. Is very much just the odd things that you notice that you don't think most people will notice. The things that aren't obvious, but you suddenly catch your eye, like the gleam off a piece of plastic, or, you know, the dust in the sunlight, or something that's just, you know, a little different but beautiful, you know, and look for the beauty in the everyday simple things.
Making it universal, making it relatable, is such a powerful concept. It's like, yeah, you can go ahead and write something really exotic or unusual, but it's those simple things that, you know, I wake up, I have coffee in the morning, and I'm not a morning person. Some people can really relate to that. I know, but that's me. Jack, what are you going to close us out with this evening? Maybe you can tell us a little story about it.
I'll tell a little story about it. This is a song that before, when I first had a song that I wrote and somebody said, "Wow, did you write that?" I thought, wow, I must be really doing something good, you know, if they recognize that I wrote that, you know. But the first time I played this song in public, somebody came up to me and goes, "Wow, did that happen to you?" And so it really just kind of made it the next level, I guess, of somebody relating, or that I was actually telling the story well enough that it was believable, you know, and so that it caught somebody's attention that way. But yeah, this is kind of an amalgamation of a lot of things I saw when I was a fireman. So
Jack Blaise.
This is Roses. Two hours ago was the best day of my life. Leaving work early to surprise my sweet wife. She'd been down a little lately and I couldn't wait to see look on her face when I surprised her with me. 2 hours ago was the best day of my life. Stopped to buy some roses to surprise my sweet wife. The lady behind the counter, she said, "Oh, isn't that sweet? But you know the perfect perfume would make the day complete." So we searched and sniffed some more till we'd sampled the whole damn store. 10 minutes ago was the best day of my life. Open up the front door holding roses for my wife. Wasn't early anymore, but I didn't think she'd mind. Nothing could prepare me for what I would find. Now here it is, worst day of my life. Well, hanging in the garage, I found my wife. When I cut her down, she wasn't even cold. So 20 minutes ago, she was still growing old. So I took that fucking perfume and I smashed it on the ground. Keep calling her name, she won't make a sound. If I'd have just come home, she might have been safe. Instead I'm on my knees, wailing, holding roses roses for her grave.
Power of songwriting. What you take us places, images.
Thank you.
So, Jack, let's talk about where we could find your recordings. Is got songs that you've written, lyrics that you put to music, and you certainly have wowed this crowd tonight. So, where can we find more of you?
Right now, I've got. I just released a single. I released a cover of "When Doves Cry" on all streaming: Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, TikTok Music, wherever you get your streaming music. I do have a YouTube channel. Jack Plays Music is my handle pretty much on all the socials. Now, I have to say on Facebook, my Jack Blaise Music account, I hardly ever touch it, but I am on there all the time as Jack Blaise. So, yeah, I'm on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. I refuse to be on any of the others. So,
Understood.
oh, I guess I'm on Instagram too because it's from Facebook, but X and all those where they want to yell politics at each other, I'm not into any of those. So
Now, are you now? I think I know the answer to this because just relocated to another location. You were in Colorado. Maybe you were gigging. You have anything lined up in line?
I did not for quite a while. I am I just have kind of got newfound freedom again, and I have bought an RV, and I have moved into an RV, and I am hitting the road, mostly as a tourist traveling, tourist, but also, any chance I get to gig or to, play some open mics or whatever, I'll be doing that for sure.
I mean, if you're sharing locations where you're going to end up and leave clients,
absolutely. Right now I'm in Corpus Christi, Texas. I'll be here for probably the next month or so. I just had a brand new grandbaby, so grandson. I'm super stoked about that. Yeah, Miguel Andres. No, Miguel. I'm so crap. I forgot the middle name. Miguel.
You got your new grandparents. So
yeah. So
yeah.
I think I should. Yeah.
So, last couple questions here. Do you have any parting words of wisdom, first of all, for our aspiring song?
Have fun with it. The tendency that I definitely had, and I see a lot of times with beginning songwriters, is that it's like the song is sacred, and which in a way, you want to do what benefits the song, but a lot of times what benefits that song is taking the idea that it's sacred and throwing it out the window and chopping it up and rearranging it and spinning it around and figuring out how else you can rework it to make it better. And by better, I mean communicate better. Because remember, that's the point of the song. The point is to tell a story and to have the person you're telling it to understand what you're saying in some way and relate to you in some way. So that's, don't forget that that's the point. Not only to get it out, but to have somebody hear it. And have fun with it.
Fantastic. Same question, but this one geared towards the guitar players.
Same thing. Don't forget that, this is supposed to be fun. Because you can get so caught up in, I'm going to learn the Ionian mode, triple, backwards and forwards and all this kind of stuff. And, you have to play in the Mixolydian scale when you're playing blues and all this craziness. Focus on intervals and chords. Once you understand that, everything else will completely fall into place. Don't be so afraid of theory that you don't learn your chords, and your intervals, because that is the basis of music.
Well put, my friend. Jack Blaise, what an honor to have spoken with you, to get your story to share with us.
Thank you for having me. The honor's all mine, Tom.
Oh, man.
You guys do great work, man. I love Guitars for Vets. Y'all really do great work. So
thank you, my friend. We're going to have to do this again for sure, because I know there's more to your story, and there's more music that you're going to be writing, and love to have you back sometime. So
absolutely.
Keep in touch while you're on the road. All right. And for those of you who are sticking around, Jack, you want to stick around a few minutes? Maybe feel
absolutely.
Sure. Great. Thank you all for watching Song Sung True, a Veteran's View. Hoping you enjoyed our conversation with U.S. Army and Marine Corps veteran Jack Blaise. If you missed any of the previous interviews that we've had with other veteran singer-songwriters, be sure to check them out at the Guitars for Vets YouTube page and in the G4V Learning Center's live events recording library. For more inspiring stories and entertaining live performances, be sure to also check out our live event programming schedule at the Guitars for Vets Learning Center, our monthly iJam play along, first Thursday of the month, Guitars for Vets Guitar Shop, hosted by my buddy Daniel Bigelow, G4V Guitar Brigade, our Becoming a Songwriter series as well, much more. cavarts.org is where you'll find it, and it's open to all veterans with no cost to join. So for Guitars for Vets and CavArts, the Challenge America Veteran Arts Community, I'm Tom Lamog. Thanks for watching, and good night.